Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Community Chat. So today we have a very special guest with us. You've probably seen from the thumbnail on my video this famous Excel table of the crystal hoarding strategy. I think it's been shown by Zareth now, it's been shown by Star Wars down in their videos. So we have on this YouTube channel the exclusive interview with the creator of that table. He is he's well known across Loquitur server as a member of the Dark Council. He is the man, he is the myth, he is the mastermind behind efficiency in this game. He is the ageless wonder. He is Raul Pudd. So, is it Raul or Raul? I mean, I think it's Raul Pudd. But how's it
It's
going,
it's
man?
one of those where, hey, how's it going? Yeah, it's one of those names where I kind of typed it out, and after typing it, I never really thought about how people would really want to say it. So you can call it Raul if you like, or Raul. Either one works. But yeah, so it's great to be here. Yeah, as Intimidation mentioned, I started this game mostly because of the content that Darth Locutor was making. I kind of saw it. I was looking for a Star Wars game, joined the server, and that's where I kind of met people like you and a lot of other great folks there that kind of turned me on to this whole idea of building for efficiency. And that's really what I've kind of tried to craft my game around.
Yeah. So you like this is your first and only account, right? So you started. I think you started maybe like 1 month or 2 months after me, like January, February 2021, right?
Yeah, so late February of
Okay.
21, I think, is when I started my account, and it was my first.
Cool. So like, similar story to me. I started December 2020, so 2 months before. I'm looking here, you have 6.1 million GP, so just below me. I think you just got your third Galactic Legend this week, right?
Yeah, so literally 2 days ago, I started taking farm ticket farming for SLKR, so we're hoping to have him in
Okay,
hopefully a
so
couple weeks here.
not on the roster, but yeah, within a week, 2 weeks, he'll be there. So you have JML. I see you definitely bumped him up to Relic 9, something I haven't done yet. You have JMK. JMK was your first GL, right?
Yeah, so it's a little unconventional, but it kind of worked out for me. It was right after the cat conquest, so I felt like I could grab her at a low GP, not too hard.
No, it's cool. I mean, this is like super similar to me. JMK was my first GL. I got Cat. I mean, I invested some crystals into Cat for sure to get her actually before I had JMK.
Hmm.
JML was my second GL after Executor. I think the same for you. You did JMK, you did Executor, and then you went for JML. So it's pretty similar. I think really the only thing we differed on is I decided to go for Java and you decided to go for SLKR. And I'm sure Jabba's is he next up on your list, or are Inquisitors up next?
It's Inquisitor, so it's part of the guild goals, and I'm a just for like reference here, I'm also an officer in my current guild, so really trying to push those set example and get Riva under our belts.
Awesome, man. No, I mean it can show you what you can do. I mean JMK, you know, you're the man of efficiency. It's probably not the most efficient GL to go for first now. Obviously, when you went
Hmm.
for him, when I went for him, it was a lot different. We already had Cat on the rosters, or we're close to getting Cat, so we were not gated by the 4 million GP that newer players are now. Um, so it definitely is a great roster. You have 4-star Profundity, 5-star Executor. I assume you're just kind of getting the rest of those stars as they come, not doing any type of crystal investment in those.
Yeah, so that's some people view it as controversial. I'm kind of at a point where both of those work at lower stars, and in some cases they can actually trip up your opponent more at low stars. And if I can get those extra stars just naturally without paying 1,000 crystals each month, and they're not strictly worse than the higher star versions, I'm okay settling.
No, absolutely. I think on offense, you know how to use both of the fleets. So if you know you're going to be the slower one going second, you can kind of nail down that strategy. It's not an issue. I think my my profundity is what, 6 stars now. I'm not in any rush to get it to 7 stars. It works. And then, like you said, on defense, if people are just used to having the mirror match at 7 stars and then they get thrown off by that speed of a lower star one, it could cause them troubles. So I'm just
Mhm.
checking your. What was the first like main? Because you obviously didn't start with JMK like straight out of the bag. What was your face like first like big? Journey Guide team? Was it a Padme or a JKR team?
Yeah, so it was actually the Padme team. So
Okay,
I started the game and I was really into the whole guild-centric gameplay. So grab those geos to get a watt shards, and then after that, it was like I had my eyes on Cam because back 2 years ago he was kind of the I don't know the biggest, coolest, rarest character it seemed, and so I wanted to get my hands on him, and so I got my Shock T clones up, and then went into gas actually after
okay,
that.
okay. I'm trying to pull up the Galactic Republic here real fast because now I assume your guild is doing Rise of the Empire 2 times a month, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
and
got some good people playing that.
you have a cam already at Relic 5, so obviously doing very good on the cam shards. Did you finish him off before Rise of the Empire came out, or did you like buy some of the last shards with Get 3?
Yeah, so I finished him beforehand, probably like 2 to 3 months before.
Okay,
I know we have some members of the guild that are grabbing the last 20, 30 with Get 3, or some of them Merc even too.
okay, cool. No, I mean overall this is a great account. And remind me, are you 100% free to play?
So I was 100% free to play up until around 6 months ago. I started getting the Conquest passed,
Okay,
and we can talk more about that later.
yeah, we'll definitely talk about that. So I mean, again, Conquest Pass, it's not going to be like a huge boost to the account for everybody out there watching. It's definitely not a whale account. And we'll talk about Conquest Pass, like what that can kind of do for you, especially if you're trying to keep up with a lot of the new things in the game. So, cool, man. I love this account. I think it's great. I'm sure, you're definitely probably on the low end of the GP for your guild, but I'm sure you're like near the top on contribution. It's built right. It's built good. Obviously, it's a huge light side focus. As you were focused on light side TB to start with, very similar to mine. That doesn't matter so much now in ROTE. I'm sure we don't really have all these obscure tunes that we have at Gear 13 and higher relics because we were very focused. So that's kind of the next step, I guess, for both of us. Um,
Yeah, no, I imagine for you it's much like looking almost into the mirror for
yeah,
like
like I said,
rosters.
the only thing that's really that I see different is you went for SLKR, I went for Java, and my plan was for SLKR after JML anyway, but then Java came out, and I don't know, made that decision for my guild. So I think
Hmm.
probably by the end of this year, we'll both kind of loop back around, and I'm sure we'll both have Inquisitors, we'll both have Java, I'll have SLKR, so it'll look pretty similar. So the thing I wanted to talk about, and again, is this famous. Let me just switch my screen here. This famous Excel table that's been where are we going here? Sorry, I'm over on Discord. This famous Excel table when it comes to double drop. So May 4th to May 6th, I think they confirmed that it's only 3 days now. Um, Trying to find the post. It's only 3 days now and not four. But during these days, obviously, the amount of energy that you're spending, the shards, the character drops, the drop rate is doubled. Basically, that means that the crystal investment costs 50%. So if you're going, to the next tier of the crystal refreshes, let's say the 100 crystal refreshes on normal energy, they're basically what you would normally be investing on the 50. So it's a great value. And again, that's during from May 3rd to May 6th. Those days, you'll actually get the double drop rate. But you have a table here that kind of shows if you start hoarding energy, even starting back on April 29th, which is starting tomorrow, you can actually be, basically have a little bit better value. So can you explain just a little bit, we don't have to go through all the different numbers here, but what does it mean when we're hoarding the 50s only? What does it mean when we start doing the 50s and the 100s? And, kind of a little bit of the information behind how you hoard and maybe what you should think about and what you should definitely not do while you're hoarding.
Yeah, so to talk at a high level, the whole point of hoarding is that the energy that you have leading up to the days of the event, you could either spend it that very day and get the gear at it at like a one times value, or if you save it for a while longer and wait till double drop start, you can spend it at a two times value. And the trade-off there is that by saving it, you cut yourself off from the natural energy regeneration that kind of
Yeah.
happens. Natural regular energy will regenerate at like 10 energy per hour. Cantina is 5. And so when you start hoarding and you reach the energy caps, that 144, all of a sudden you can't naturally generate that energy. So the whole point of hoarding here, and I try to present it in this way, is that you want to start hoarding not so long before double drops that all of a sudden you're missing out on this natural regeneration and you hit your max energy cap. You can see in one of the lines there's like a 2000 and
Yeah.
a 1000 line. You can't refresh anything past that. So you really need a time when you start hoarding your energy so that you can hit that 2000 or 1000 cap while also minimizing the amount of natural energy regeneration that you lose. And so I present two different strategies there. One of them, we're using only our 50s. So that's the ones that maybe you log in each day, you spend your 3 refreshes, those all cost 50. In Canteen, it's 100, but that's what a lot of people are used to. The one on the right, that's for hoarding if you want to spend your 50s and 100s on those days that you start hoarding. So for those are for people that say, hey, I'm really committed to mods. I almost always spend my 100s on mod energy. I want to keep that up and I want to start hoarding as well, but I want to know the right day to start because I'm not just doing 50s like the people on the left. I operate on a different timetable. So these two different ones represent people that are regularly doing their 350s or people that are regularly doing their 350s and an extra 3 on top of those.
Cool.
So depending which of those determines when you want to start.
Yeah, and I think it's key. Like now, this, we're recording this on the 28th. I'm going to try to post it out the same day. So basically, starting tomorrow is kind of the earliest you would want to start hoarding. I know, last week there was people asking, even like they'd already started hoarding their energy, waiting for double drops, and basically
Mm-hmm.
they were going to hit that cap. They were going to obviously cap out at the free energy at the 144. If they were like spending crystals to go above, at some point they were going to reach that cap, and they're just going to lose it, right? Or they're just going to lose those days where it doesn't make sense to, or actually you can't even refresh, right? So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, both.
that's key. I did see some comments there, and I think just for the people watching, one thing to point out, Raul Pudd mentioned that your free energy region caps at 144. But the bonus energy you get throughout the day, the 45 extra energy on various types, that can go on top of the 144. When you spin crystals to, refresh energy to get that at plus 120, that actually can go on stack on top of the 144. So the hard cap is 2000, but the reason why he's showing 2119 is if you're at 1999 and you do a 100 refresh, or if you do a refresh, then you can get another 120, right? So I guess once
Yeah,
you reach 2000, it won't let you refresh. But if you're just under that 2000, you can still refresh on top of that. So I think that's key because actually I saw a comment on one of my videos just today that someone wasn't, they thought the cap was actually 144. They weren't aware that like when they refresh with crystals, it could actually go above that. So I think that's something that maybe, new players maybe are not aware of that. I think, most obviously mid game, late game players, hopefully they're aware of that. But something to point out.
absolutely. Yeah. And make sure you hoard at the right time so you don't hit that 2000 cap a day early and all of a sudden you miss out on another day of natural energy regeneration. And one other
Exactly.
thing I want to say as well is on the top line, I know some people haven't, maybe I put it in the wrong way, but I have a bar in there called quests. And
Hmm.
that's one thing that I really wanted to make sure that people are doing while they're hoarding their energy is finishing those daily quests. Because whenever you do that, you get that little box at the end of the day that will give you 3 kairos, some core gear, and extra crystals. What you get in that box is per energy spent way higher value than anything that double drops, hoarding for double drops is going to get you. So make sure you're still completing your daily quests, but then following this plan right here, you can still maximize your energy savings for double drops.
No, absolutely. I would say also, if you have hard nodes that you're farming for characters or ships, don't stop those. I mean, you want to still be able to get those, 2 to 10 shards per day. So keep farming your key ones. You don't need to be farming 7 or 8 or 9, but your key ones you should definitely be farming. Also on the quest, on that point, normally you were still probably wanting to spend your energy to get your 600 raid tickets per day. I guess right now we're in the blackout period, right, for raid.
Yeah.
So, um, do the, I guess you can do, if you're going to hoard, you can do the minimum to hit your daily quest, but there's no point of trying to get the 600 tickets. Like if you hit your minimums, we're all going
Mhm.
to start with, I guess, full raid tickets whenever the new, the new raid launches. So, um, cool. So for you personally on your account, what is your plan? Are you going to do this horde strategy? Are you going to, me personally, I'm not going to do the horde strategy. I don't have time to like keep track of it, but I will on May the 3rd, just before my reset, like at 10 p.m. local time. That's when I'll do
Mhm.
all my like 50s and 100 refreshes so I can get up to, I don't know, I'll probably get like 1,000, 1,100, I think, energy. And then as soon as my reset happens, I'll have basically one extra day of refreshes. But for you, are you plan on using this horde strategy?
Yeah, so I'll be hoarding with the 50s. I'm not rolling in crystals, but I got a few kyber crystals to spend there. So I'll be hoarding with the 50s, and fortunate for me, I know a lot of younger accounts may not have the luxury, but I don't have too many hard nodes that I'm working on, so I can really stick to this plan. Just do 6 hard node attempts, finish that quest, and nothing past that. So this strategy is something that works really well for my state and my account, and I'd advise others that are in similar states to take a peek at it as well.
Yeah, I mean, it depends count by account. Like if you can do that, obviously you're getting good value by hoarding. Um, like I said, don't stop your key farms if you're trying to get shards, especially if you're like waiting on one character. Like that's the thing that's really bottlenecking you. Don't wait on that, but see what you can manage, and then obviously depending on your crystal situation, try to determine what areas you want to actually spend the energy in during these double drops. I mean, we can't all, I think I did the, corrected my math. I think it's, well, it's a little bit less now because it's only 3 days. But without the hoarding, it's going to be something around 8,000, 7,500 or 8,000 crystals. If you're doing 6 refreshes, 5 refreshes on Cantina Energy every day. So it can be quite expensive. So make sure you can, determine what you can afford. I think there's also a proving grounds coming next week just before double drops. You have obviously the what profanity event. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
things that people need crystals for, and it's unfortunate that they all come like right at the same time. But you have to kind of take that into consideration on what you can afford.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for myself personally, I'll definitely be doing the 50s and 100s during the event just because I have that. But I can understand where people are in spots where, hey, they got to refresh that proving ground event because they got to unlock cat this month, or hey, I'm super low on bronzing wiring. I need to save up for those 500
Yep,
bronzing packs or carbonite packs in the store, just because, like you said, there are a lot of good values for crystals nowadays, and really looking at your account and finding where is that spot that needs it the most and allocating it that way, I think is where you're going to benefit the most.
for sure. Like me personally, I think I need like 30 shards for mall.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna just have to. I want to get him just to get him done. So I'm gonna definitely spend 2,000 crystals, which is going to cut into what I have for double drops, but I think it's worth it. So if we move on to the next thing, so another thing that again you post about efficiency all the time, on Discord. So one of recently you made a super long post talking about the value of Conquest currency. Should you spend it on these Gear 12 plus gold pieces from the scavenger that you can find in Sector 1? I'm just going to pull it up on the screen now. Or should you be buying the Conquest character shards? So the ships like Scythe, Ben Solo, the Malgus' ship, the Fury class Interceptor. Should you be spending currency on that, or should you be spending it? If I scroll down on these like Gear 12 pieces. So give me your take on what is the best value, and again maybe it depends on where the player is in the game, but in general what is going to be the best value of how to spend your conquest currency.
Yeah, so I'm very much of the mindset when you're trying to pick out a path for your roster, pick the path of least resistance. So, for example, we were in a situation where we did the cat conquest. We had all these great cat shards. JMK first as a GL made perfect sense. Whereas someone coming in here, and let's say there's a new conquest character coming out, and they're stuck in normal conquest. The most shards they can get is like 25 or 30 each time. If there's a new GL that comes out that Conquest unit's a lifter for, they're barely going to have like 150 by the end of the coming months here. And for them to get that lifter and then chase that new GL, they really got to bend over backwards, whether it be with spending Conquest currency on these or doing a variety of other crystal things. So what I'm presenting here, if this whole Conquest shard um, evaluation that I did here is basically just telling people that, those Conquest character shards that you can buy of Conquest currency, they are good if you are really close to getting that character. Let's say you're 270 out of 330. They're great for that because otherwise you're having to wait potentially 6 months for that character to enter proving grounds, and maybe you need them right then. But in general, for most growing accounts, and especially those accounts under 4 million GP that can't do hard conquest or are maybe in hard conquest and can only get to box 5 or so, I would really advise people not to buy the character shards with that conquest currency, just because for my account and a lot of accounts that are like mine, I really want to focus on growing my account. And one of the biggest modern bottlenecks is these Gear 12 plus pieces that go on the right side of your character when you're trying to relic them. Those are the ones that you farm in fleet. And there aren't many great ways to get more of those pieces other than doing an extra set of refreshes on your fleet energy. And when you start doing the math and comparing the cost of that gear, if you were to get it with the Conquest currency or using 100 crystal refreshes, it really starts to paint the picture as to why those Conquest character shards aren't the best deal for growing your roster. So
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
a high level overview.
And remind me, I think so. If you want to get a new conquest character in 3 months, so over three conquests, you basically need the max crate, so red crate on hard mode. Plus, you need another 20. So basically, you have to buy either from the scavenger 5 times for 3 months, or you need to buy the conquest pass for $10. That gets you another 20 shards, right?
Yeah, so if you want that 3 month unlock, you got to get the max box and then buy every single shard that appears in this wandering scavenger for the
Yep.
conquest currency.
Yep. And for you, where are you at this time? Are you at gold box, or did you find a way to cheese your way to the red box?
I had ambitions for red, but I don't know, just felt I couldn't get red while also farming the datacron materials that I needed, so I opted to stick with gold this time.
Cool. No, I'm in the same situation. I'm just hit the gold. I I was a bit lazy trying to find ways to cheese the rest of the way, and I haven't like started Inquisitor, so that was a big burden. So hit the gold and then just spending the rest on Datacrons. I also have like the Conquest Pass, so I think with Conquest Pass with Gold Crate, I mean you can get it in what like five
I think fine.
conquests. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, like where
No,
I'm at in my guild, that'll be more than enough. I think by the time I farm the rest of the stuff needed for this new fleet, it's gonna be 6 months anyway. So
yeah, and there is really the disadvantage nowadays of having a character within 3 months or 5 months really isn't that big of a deal. I feel like back in the days of when squad arena crystals were a thing, and if you didn't have JMK Cat, you
yeah,
couldn't climb all the way up to the top. Maybe then it kind of meant a lot more to miss that like extra month of having that character. But nowadays, if you don't have like the next big fleet immediately upon release, maybe you'll drop a division in GAC, but the difference in income there versus the difference in income of being cut out of, for example, the top 10 of Squad Arena, completely different.
yep,
So, like, I'd say nowadays, like, you really don't need to stress too hard about having everything on this strict timeline of 3 months. Do what's flexible, work with your roster, do what's natural, path of least resistance. I'll keep saying that.
good. So no, I think that's a very good recap of Conquest and how to be efficient. Like, I mean, I know when Cat came out, we both spent currency on those shards, we spent crystals, but it was really a game changer. I would say she's the Galactic Legend and JMK is the helper unit. Um,
hmm
but for now on, like you said, I fully agree. Once they change Squad Arena, you can kind of take your time. I mean, if you're in one of these top end TW guilds, you're probably getting a red crate anyway, so you're getting it in 3 months. But for anybody else, even if you're in, you're in Kyber 3, so even when you're in Kyber 3, Kyber 4, I think 4 to 5 months, 5 or 6 month unlock, you'll be able to afford it. You're still probably going to be ahead of the majority of players that are there. So don't force it. So
Hmm.
like, what are some other general tips on efficiency? I know you mentioned, like using crystals. So there's a lot of things we talked about, proving grounds, refreshing if you're like super close for a really necessary character. Obviously like using crystals to refresh your energy for farms. You mentioned relic materials. So what are some of like the efficient things you can buy with crystals, specifically on the relic materials? Like what one should people be looking to get?
Yeah, so if you're just looking for good things to spend crystals on, my favorite things personally, first of all, when they come around, there's the 500 crystal relic material packs, the bronzium wiring, and the carbonate circuit boards more so, but the bronzium wiring, I know some people really hurt in that area, and it's not the worst way to get those, but carbonate circuit boards definitely are great. I will say nowadays with the daily deals that pop up every once in a while, you'll see some that have impulse detectors in there. Those aren't half bad to grab through there.
Okay, it's good to
Um,
know.
and all of this, I will say, is after you've done your base 50 refreshes. Very few things in the game are better value than those base 50 refreshes. And then past that for crystals, I mean, if you're hitting those relic materials, you're doing your refreshes, unless you are a spender on the game, you might not have too many more than what those get you through. I know myself personally, I kind of will buy two or three of those relic map packs, and then my crystals are kind of dried up for the month. I mean, I'm in Kyber too. We're not swimming in them, so I think you do have to be thoughtful about what you spend them on, and those are two spots where I think you can't go wrong.
No, absolutely. Like I try to do the same, like two or three of those packs, and then kind of depletes my crystals. I have around like 4K right now, but that's going to be completely gone in the next, week. No, that's good. I
Hmm.
think, buying gear from the shipments is really not definitely not a good value for crystals almost any time. The only time I would personally say to do it is if it's like right before a key lock in for TW or Grand Arena, and it's like the last piece you're needing to get like a super key character to relics.
Hmm.
I've done it, but that's the only time. I mean, if you're a mega whale, fine, you can do it, but even if you're a light spender, that's not the best value. If you're a light spender, Conquest Pass, I think, is a good value. Um, I think, buying, crystals when they're discounted, especially, and then doing exactly what you just said with those crystals is a good value.
One
Um,
other I thought of is there is the 50-50 Cairo packs that come around where you have a 50% chance of getting 25 and a 50% chance of getting 50.
like
Those
690,
aren't
right?
all too see. I can't remember. I think it's 25 or 50 and both of them are 50% each, but I remember those aren't too different in terms of value than just straight up node farming those Kairos. And I will say,
Okay.
with the direction CG's taking the game, Kairos are as big of a bottleneck as anything else, and getting your hands on an extra few of those at a similar price to doing a node refresh, not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, no, I buy them time to time. I think it's like just under 700 crystals. And if you hit the 25, it's basically the same value as if you were to buy them from the store anyway.
Yeah.
And like you said, similar to buying it from the note. If you actually get the full 50, then it's really good value. I think I have a video coming out tomorrow that talks more about like mid to late game players on, what they should do during double drops. And I definitely highlight that, right? Farm your light side 7B, farm your dark side, what is it, 8A, if you need the different types of kairos. Like that's really what you should be spending energy on during double drops. So we're talking about how you hoard crystals or hoard, save crystals to hoard energy for double drops. But when double drops happen, those are the types of things you should be spending your energy on. Still with me?
Yeah.
All right. All right. So we're like right here at 30 minutes. I told you that we can kind of just get carried away and start talking forever. But anything else you want to point out? Um, good tips, good tricks, strategies for, I know you help a lot of like newer players in the game over on Loquitur server, but a lot
Hmm.
of the people there now are kind of around the same level. They're like 5 to 7 million GP, kind of that mid to late tier part of this game. So what are any closing thoughts for the audience?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I'll say that I think has helped me a lot with deciding where to take my roster and, identifying bottlenecks along the way is don't be afraid to, almost storyboard out how you want your roster to look. Like, obviously, don't think too far in advance, but maybe think about, hey, I know for me a while back, I was thinking, I want to get Profunding, I want to get Jedi Master Luke. Let me kind of look at what are all these characters that I need to build? Which ones makes the most sense to build first? Do I want Profundity or JML first? Kind of do that decision making in your head. Really look at what you want and break it up into these smaller steps. Identify which steps are going to have the most immediate impact, which steps are going to have the biggest long term impact, and if any of those steps are going to, in the example of Profundity, if you get that one a little bit earlier, you could potentially save yourself a number of months having to do that event or crystals to refresh that event if you go that route. So, my biggest tip for people is don't be afraid to storyboard your roster, think about what you want, and decide on the order you're going to get it. And once you have that order, then you can decide how you're going to get your gear.
Good. I think that's excellent advice. I would say don't storyboard more than 2 years out. The game
Hmm.
changes. It's changed a lot since we started, but definitely have a plan. Once you have that plan, make sure you kind of stick with it. But at the same time, be flexible when the game does change. All right, dude.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate you joining me here today. Glad we were finally able to do it. I think you have a lot of great advice for this community. I will put the link below to Darth Loquitur server. Um, Feel free to pop over there. You'll see Raul Pudd posting every day, giving advice. So there's him plus a lot of other very knowledgeable members over there. So thanks for joining me. And thanks everybody for watching. Just before we sign off, please remember to subscribe to my channel, like the video, and go ahead and leave comments below on what you think. So thanks for watching.